Get Facebook set up here. Okay.
So 10 o'clock. Shall we start? Good morning, everyone, and good evening also, those who are joining us from India. Today, we continue with our exploration of the overmind in the series of new perspectives in integral living. New Perspectives program is organized by Sri Aurobindo Integral Life Center in Fountain Inn, USA, and Surat, India, in collaboration with Auro University. So we are happy to have with us today again Dr. Soumitra Basu. We continue this exploration of the overmental consciousness. So before I give microphone to Soumitra, I will make a brief introduction into the concept of Maya as it is presented by Sri Aurobindo. Let me project the PowerPoint. So last time we were looking into this profound concept of the supramental and overmental consciousness and the difference between them. What is important is to see the fundamental approach to the supramental consciousness through the overmental link. And in the Vedas, what is interesting, when they speak about the Divine Mother, they speak of Aditi, which is later in the later literature is Paraprakriti. Yes? Aditi is Satchitananda, and also including Vijnana, or the supermind, because in the supermind, the whole manifestation is being created and projected into time and space. So the Diti is her twin sister, who is the dividing consciousness. If Aditi is undivided, universal, or not transcendental, infinite consciousness and power, then Diti is dividing infinite consciousness and power, her twin sister, as it were. And what is interesting that in the Veda there is also another mother who is called Prishni. And Prishni is the cow of many-colored cow, or the mother of many colors. And what is interesting, if we look at the picture presented by Huta, we will see that Overmind presented by the mother as many-colored realm where all the colors are mixed and presented. So the supermind is a pure gold, and the overmind is this many-colored realm where the clusters of light are still there. The whole universe is still in this, in the is not yet totally differentiated into individualized consciousness. It is still on the universal, in the universal framework. So if we look at this previous picture, what I was making here, I just added Maya for the Svar. So from Vijnana, which is linking the transcendental world to this manifestation, there is a transition, what Sri Aurobindo calls the realm of the ray of the sun, Svar. Not of the sun itself. Sun itself would be Vijnana, but the realm of the ray of the sun would be overmind, where overmind finally meets the darkness and pervades with the light the darkness. So here I would like to take a few quotations from Sri Aurobindo, from the Life Divine, which are most important, and make some comments on them. Sri Aurobindo speaks on the divine Maya. This power was known to the Vedic seers by the name of Maya. Maya meant for them the power of infinite consciousness to comprehend, contain in itself, and measure out. That is to say, to form, for form is delimitation. Name and shape out of the vast, illimitable truth of infinite existence. So the forms are made, shaped within this Maya. Maya is that power, the creatrix, the power of the mother. By the way, Ma, Ya, and Ma, Tri, Mother, is the same root to create a form, to shape the form and name the usage of that form, in particular relation to all other forms. It is by Maya that the static truth of essential being becomes ordered truth of active being. Or, to put it in more metaphysical language, out of the supreme being in which all is, all, without barrier of separated consciousness, emerges the phenomenal being in which all is in each, and each is in all, for the play of existence with existence, consciousness with consciousness, force with force, delight with delight. This is the beginning of creation of the multitude creation. Now, this play of all in each and each in all is concealed at first from us by the mental play of the illusion of Maya, which persuades each that he is in all, but not all in him. This is the first persuasion. It's quite interesting. Just think for a second. That he is in all, but not all in him. I am in all, but not all in me. This is the first separation. The second, he is in all as a separated being, not as a being always inseparably one. So I am in all as a separate being, as myself, and not as Sri Aurobindo says, inseparably one with the rest of the existence. Afterwards, we have to emerge from this arrow into the supramental play, or the truth of Maya, where they each and they all coexist in the inseparable unity of the one truth and the multiple symbol. And that is the supramental consciousness. These are profound concepts and, of course, require dwelling. They are not easily perceived. But uh, once we rise to this higher perception, we could see or even feel, experience tangibly the presence of this consciousness. So the lower present and diluting Maya, mental Maya, has first to be embraced, then to be overcome. That's what Sri Aurobindo says, how to overcome this Maya. It has to be embraced first and then overcome. For it is God's play with division and darkness and limitation, desire and strife and suffering, in which he subjects himself to the force that has come out of himself, and by her obscure suffers himself to be obscured. Sorry. This is the action of Maya. It blocks the throat. So this movement of division, which the divine took on himself, this sacrifice of Purusha, of the one consciousness and being, limited himself by level upon level, going down to the full inconscient. This is the involutionary limitation or delimitation, as Sri Aurobindo says. That other Maya concealed by this mental, it's already concealed by this division, has to be overpassed, then embraced. So, for it is God's play of the infinities of existence, the splendors of knowledge, the glories of force mastered, and the ecstasies of love illimitable, where he emerges out of the hold of force, holds her instead, and fulfills in her illumined that for which she went out for him at the first. It's a very complex statement, but it says that that limitation which took place in the first place was needed to create that separated focal point of individual consciousness, which is now to be maintained. But in what way? The division, the separateness is to be overcome first, overpassed, and then the truth of one's being is to be embraced in the whole. So what I noticed that these two are profound movements of Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. One is the spiritual, so to say, presence from over the head of the Jivatma, as it were, where everything is perceived from the point of view of oneness, where everything is viewed as the divine already. All the beings, all the manifestations are the divine in a way. And this is one attitude from all over the head, from above the head. And the other attitude is from the heart of the psychic being, where the unity of all and acceptance of all as the divine cannot be accepted, cannot be taken. It has to be the division of ego, the division of lower nature has to be overcome first, rejected, and then the truth of the divine is to be embraced. These are two attitudes to overcome Maya. So here I'm giving my final overview of these two. The first movement of Maya, this descent, this sacrifice of the Purusha, the divine soul submitting itself to force and matter so that it may inform and illumine them, is the seed of redemption of this world of inconscience and ignorance. It is from Synthesis of Yoga, page 106. The first two quotations from the Veda, which Sri Aurobindo put at the beginning of this chapter on the Divine Maya, and he has the whole chapter on the Divine Maya in the Life Divine, reflects these two views on Maya. And these are two quotations. The first one is the first moment. It's quite interesting. He points us out where in the Veda we can find these movements. Tad it nu asya vrishabhasya dhenoh anamabhih mamire shakmiyam goho anyadanyada suriyam vasana nimayino mamire rupam asmin. By the names of the Lord and hers, they shaped and measured the force of the Mother of Light, wearing might after might of that force as a robe. The lords of Maya shaped out form in this being. So it's like robe after robe, level upon level, they descended and created the forms out of the being. This is an involutionary movement of Maya. And the second movement of Maya, this is another quotation, Maya vino mamire asya Maya nrichakshasach pitaro garbhamadadhuh. The masters of Maya shaped all by his Maya. The fathers who have divine vision set him within as a child that is to be born. Now, the child is to be born. That psychic being is to be born, the king of this creation, the individual, the unique, supreme individual. That is the purpose. Bahusyam, may I be many. Yes, that's how he became many, by these two movements of Maya. These two quotations reflect the double view on Maya, on the involutionary and evolutionary scale. The first speaks about a gradual formation of the form of the being out of the supreme light of the Mother, layer upon layer, building up all the forms of being up to the material inconscient. Anyadanyata suriyam vasana. It's quite beautiful. Ni maino mamire rupam asmin. And the second speaks about the emergence and growth of the Supreme as the divine child from within that form of material inconscient. Maya vino mamire asya maya yandrichakshasach pitaro garbham adadhu. So this is basically my introduction to the Maya, these two movements and these two focal major points of consciousness, the unborn self and the projection of it within the heart of man. And by both of them, this illusion or this division is to be overcome, not by only one. Because if we take only one poise, then we fall into Advaitic vision. But if we take both, we arrive at Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. So thank you for this. And so now I give a microphone to Soumitra to expand on this vision on the overmental consciousness. Soumitra, please.
Thank you. And thank you for this very wonderful presentation, which we started the other day with the Divine Maya. And this is such a sophisticated view of Maya by Sri Aurobindo. So we will talk today about the overmind as the field of global cognition. Now, it is difficult to understand what is global cognition because we have a limited cognitive field, and straight away it is difficult to jump into the global cognition. We cannot straight away jump into that. You see that in India always it had been that our great seers, they were interested in the supreme Brahman or Nirvana or the great void or the absolute, for which you need to jump from your mind into that which is beyond, far, far beyond the mind. So the mind has no place there because you have jumped to the absolute, which is beyond all cognition. In fact, that famous famous expression "neti neti," which is not, it is not that what we know and it is not that what we do not know, came because Sri Aurobindo said that it exceeded all cognitive experience, and so Sri Aurobindo had to chart a different route where the cognitive consciousness can itself evolve. You see, it's a new concept that is giving, Sherwind is giving, an evolution of the cognitive consciousness, which is so above the mind. There are higher ranges of mind that can open up one after another. And we'll just give a short glimpse of that, because you have to climb to the global cognition of the overmind. You cannot jump there. You have to go through these cognitive fields or these cognitive matrices, or more correctly, these matrices of consciousness force, matrices of chit shakti that open up one after another after the cognitive, after our usual cognitive space. They open up one after another. We would call it the supracognitive matrices. So they are there. That is a hierarchy of these supracognitive matrices. But remember again, the word hierarchy is not used in a sense in which many people look down upon that word, because as it shows that something is higher and always certain things are lower. It's not like that. Every plane contains the essence of all other planes that have preceded it, and the potentiality of all other planes that will be coming forward. So every plane is also totipotent in its own right. So there's it's just a way of saying, because they are opening up, these ranges are opening up one after another. So we'll go to this PowerPoint presentation, and so that's the spiritual mind range. To go to the overmind, you have to go through these different levels after your mind. So after the cognitive space with which we are accustomed, there's a space of the what Sri calls a higher mind, and which in my view, this is something which has now to be worked upon, taken upon with a missionary zeal all over the world, because is a world of mass ideation, is a plane of mass ideation, where sea like downpour of spontaneous and automatic knowledge in multidimensional modes. That means contradictory and complementary ideas are present there together, with the same value. You know that Shiominda said, I know that the opposite of what I say is true, because there is one plane of consciousness where all ideas, they have the same value even if they are contradictory to each other, and that is the plane of the higher mind. And today it has been now time to shift to the higher mind, because once you shift to the higher mind, you know that the opposite idea of yours is as important as your idea, and immediately you will be free of dogmatic ideas, or of what mother said, exclusivism. The world suffers from exclusivism, she said, means exclusive ideas. My religion is the best. My philosophy is the best. My ideology is the best. No? At the level of the higher mind, all ideologies, even your opposite ideology, has the same value. So it's now actually time to shift to the higher mind, and we are actually moving to that direction. You will see throughout the world, the mind is shifting from the linear to the non-linear way of thinking. It's an indication that the mind is getting ready to shift to the higher mind. And above the higher mind is that is a mind which Sri Aurobindo said that described in one word, revelatory ideograph, where the truth need not be expressed in words. You can catch the body of truth. The truth, you can catch that body of truth, is a seer vision. The seers, no, the great rishis, they did not have the compulsion like philosophers to express everything through language, because things could be revealed automatically, revealed in a higher illuminating vision. So that is the illumined mind. And still above that is intuition. Sri that first used the word intuitive mind in synthesis of yoga. Afterwards, he started using the word only intuition, because the intuitive mind means something where the intuition has come down and has become diluted by our reasoning structure. In Sri intuition is different from the ordinary way in which the word intuition is used. Like that, intuition here is something which lives like a spark, and it has veridical and is determinative. And there are many what you call intuition has many parts, or many what you call that, many compartments that you have to understand. There is an intuitive suggestion that comes in a flash. There is intuitive discrimination, which means that intuition can do the work of reason. Intuition is not irrational. It can do the work of reason. It can discriminate. And then there is intuitive inspiration and intuitive revelation. So these are all big things. we have to understand it by as very separate sessions on intuition, because by itself is a very big subject. And then when you have gone to the higher mind and from there shifted to the illumine mind, and then you had an experience of the intuition, after that only you can say that you are ready for the field of the global cognition, where your individual cognitive field gets connected with the global cognitive field at a higher level. You see, we are always connected with the cognitive, with the cosmic consciousness, but at the lower level. We are connected usually with the cosmic consciousness in ignorance. We are not connected with the cosmic consciousness at a higher level. So here, that overmind that has come down just from the supermind, because in the supermind is, as we were discussing other day, it was supermind is a software program where the unmanifest is being programmed so that so that it can manifest. The unmanifest has to manifest, and it cannot directly manifest. It has to be programmed for the manifestation, and for that programming you have these creative essences which will first come, and from these creative essences are derived the determinants, which will be behind cognition, volition, and emotion. The multiplicity, the origin of the multiplicity will come, and the multiplicity will start to be assertive at the level of the overmind, which is below the level of the supermind. The supermind is a plane where this programming takes place, that the one will become many. How it will become many? But the one and many are still, they are identified with each other, but the many begins to assert itself, begins to be important. The bias goes towards the many, towards the multiplicity, so that creation can happen, and that is the plane of the overmind. So, but yet there is an underlying unity. You see, in overmind, though the multiplicity is there and is trying to emerge and trying to assert itself, but the multiplicity is aware that it is based on an unity. So it has not become disconnected from unity. It is based on the unity. And remember that in our hierarchy of cognitive climbing, we are going to reach that state. It is not such an easy state where we will be linking up our individual cognition. We want to link it up with the global cognition at the level where all these things are happening, where the multiplicity is originating. So it's not an easy thing. It is not an easy thing. It is a very, very high consciousness, and which we are not ordinarily connected. So it is a global cognitive field. In way, Sherwin also say that it is a superconscient cosmic consciousness. So it is the upper portion of the cosmic consciousness, the superconscious portion of the cosmic consciousness, because the cosmic consciousness has got an ignorant portion, has got its inconscience. There is a cosmic inconscience. There is a cosmic ignorance. We are ordinarily connected with the cosmic mind in ignorance. You see, we are all connected with the cosmic consciousness, but we are connected in ignorance. And because we are connected with the cosmic consciousness, we can have, all of us throughout the world, we have the same dreams, we give importance to the same symbols, we understand the meaning of the same vibrations, same rhythms of music all over. We can understand them because we are connected with the cosmic consciousness. Only that connection is not done in full knowledge, it is done at a lower level. So then, to come to this overmind, therefore you have to traverse the spiritual mind range. So it's a difference, that what is the difference between our ordinary mind, overmind, and the supermind? You see, if we see that at the origin of multiplicity, there where the multiplicity is connected with the unity, it has not lost its connection with the unity. At the level of the mind, the what is there in the overmind, the multiplicity in the overmind has lost its connection with the unity. Therefore, if we see, we consider religion. So at the level of the mind, all religions are conflicting with each other, because each religion has forgotten that it is unified with all other religions. They come from the same matrix of unity. At the level of overmind, of this is different, because all religions are developments of one eternal religion, of one perennial religion, of one Sanatan perspective that is going on. So all religions are developments of one eternal perspective. At the level of supermind, the essence of all religions is just present as a creative idea, a stroke of brush in a white canvas. Is like that. So for with every other idea force, it is the same thing, that what is there at the level of the multiplicity, which are unrelated with each other, in the overmind, they are linked with each other, though they have their distinct, unique properties. They are linked with each other at the level of supermind. They are just present as a creative essence from where everything will be born. So, likewise, all philosophies would be valid in his own field as a statement of its own universal view from his own angle. All political theories should be the working out of the same idea force with its right to application and practical development at different eras according to the different needs of the people, the different cultural milieux of the people. So, in our separative consciousness, we don't understand this because though imperfectly we have glimpses of universality, but still those are imperfect glimpses. We can't stick to them, so therefore we stick to our exclusive vision of things. So, and in an overmind, this is not there, this exclusiveness is not there. It allows all to live as necessary to the whole, or put each in its place in the whole, or assign each its field of realization or endeavor. So at the level of the overmind, these differences are not there. The same thing which is there at the overmind is allowed to multiply itself, is allowed to lose its connection with the unity. So that's the part, that's the reason that the lower Maya, what Vladimir was showing, that why that is important and why that has to be understood and embraced, because it has to be understood, otherwise the individual potentialities we will not understand. We have to understand every unique potentiality of the manifestation, and only after we have understood every unique potentiality, then we can go to synthesize them. That's why they have to be embraced, and after that they have to be synthesized. So the ordinary cosmic mind in ignorance, you see, there's a difference between the ordinary cosmic mind in ignorance and the overmind. The overmind is the cosmic consciousness at the height, the superconscient cosmic consciousness. The ordinary cosmic consciousness is around us, with which you are connected, and it has got it has got both positive and negative potentialities. And these things which are there, the ordinary cosmic mind has great creative waves, and it has got great disharmonious waves, and all these things can enter into our inner being. And the positive potencies, when they enter into us, they can enhance our creativity. As Sri Aurobindo has said, that all the positive things, all the positive creative rhythms that enter into our inner being from the cosmic consciousness, a little trickles into the outer being, and that little trickle is responsible for our great creativity in our human history. Great creativities in human history are little trickles that come from the cosmic consciousness, that the great waves of creativity are there, and a little bit comes. But if negative potentialities are also there, and they can also come inside us from the cosmic mind in ignorance, and they can cause disharmony. So they can go forward and they can catch hold of the ego, and they can go backwards, and they can form a curtain between the soul and the rest of the being. You see, the disharmonious forces from the cosmic consciousness, they can come inside us, go forward and catch hold of the ego, or they can be raising a curtain between the soul and the rest of the being, which is called position in Sri Aurobindo's scheme of things. So that is the cosmic mind in ignorance. The cosmic mind at the level of the overmind, which is a very high superconscious region of the cosmic consciousness, it is above all these things, because the cosmic mind in ignorance is not immune to the attacks of the magnified ego and the hostile forces. The cosmic mind at the level of the overmind is above above the ego and the hostile forces. So it is much above these things. It is beyond all these things. So that's why it will not get disturbed. And what we say, the Jungian collective unconscious, is actually a part of the cosmic mind in ignorance. So that's the global cognition. In global cognition, knowledge rushes from every side, and you can see everything from all points of view, and each thing from all points. Everything from all points of view, and each thing from all points. Thus, the cosmic consciousness is represented not only in its static aspect but also in its dynamic reality, which means it is the expression of something above. It is the expression of something above. So that is the global cognition, where knowledge is coming from everywhere, and you can see objects from all points of view, and each thing from all points. This is the difference from our ordinary cognition, which can see things only in sections, but there in the overmind you can see objects from all points of view simultaneously, and each thing from all points. So, and then thinking is not your individual stuff. Thought is no longer originating individually, it is manifesting from above. or comes as cosmic mind waves. No? The thoughts that which you are open to the overmind, they are not originating inside your individual small mind. It is something which is manifesting there in the huge cosmic consciousness as great waves. They're originating from above, from might be from the transcendence, and all individual inside or sight or intelligence is now a revelation or illumination of what is seen or comprehended. You see, whatever we are what experiencing is not that coming from our own substance. It is something that we are comprehending, and it is the source of revolution. The source of that illumination is not in one separate self. It is coming from an universal knowledge. It is coming into me. So when I am in the overmind cognition, then I am being flooded with universal knowledge. So it's not individual knowledge which I have to construct. It is an universal knowledge which is already constructed and given to me, because I've reached that state where I can receive it. You see, with great difficulty, I have to build up models of knowledge. Whether I am studying science, whether I am studying geography, whether I am studying psychology, I have to build up all the models inside me. I have to construct all this, all the knowledge from what I gain from my books and my teachers and my experience. But in overmind, it's different. The knowledge already is made up there. I don't have to construct them. I don't have to do this tedious work of constructing things one after another and seeing which fits with what. That knowledge is automatically present, and it is there in some universal stratosphere from where it is just coming to me. I have reached a point where I'm receptive to it, and I can just receive it. I can just receive it. So that's global cognition. That feelings, emotions, sensations are not only thoughts, but also our feelings, not only our ideas, but our emotions, not only our hypotheses, but our sensations. They are also felt as waves. They are also as waves from the same cosmic immensity. You see, our volition, cognition, and everything, emotions, they are all coming as waves from the same cosmic immensity, and they're breaking upon our subtle and gross body. And so, what we are, who is receiving it? Who is receiving those mighty waves? And it's not my individual ego, but an individual center of the universality. You see that then we have shifted. We are still the individual, but not the individual ego, but as an individual center of the universality. That we have to, that is what transformation that we have to make in ourselves. We have to shift as individuals from the individual ego to being the individual center of a vast universality. The body is only just a point of support. The body is just a point of support of that universality. But actually, we are open to a vast cosmic instrumentation. So, to be eligible for global cognition, then we have to know that we have to shift as an individual from being an ego linked individual to an individual who is a center of universality, not the ego. And the body is just a small support just to maintain that poise, just to maintain that poise. Actually, it is a vast cosmic instrumentation that will be using my individual consciousness for some reason of its own. So it is, Shabindi used the word boundless largeness. It's a boundless largeness. So it's not the individuality, it's not the separate ego that gives the sense of individuality, but a subordinated individuality, the cosmic existence, cosmic play, and other things. They are alone left. You see, it is not the what you call the individual center is overwhelmed by the play of cosmic forces. So the individual center is actually overwhelmed by something beyond the individual. And if you feel something as a center, then it is not as a sense with a sense of personality, but as a field of manifestation that you have to get this. You have to enjoy this not in the sense of a personality, but in the sense of a field of manifestation. That your consciousness is not of personality like this or like that, or like Caesar, or like Socrates, or like Plato, or like Buddha. Forget about that. You forget about that. You just consider yourself a personality is just a field of manifestation, and the field of manifestation is open to the great cosmic forces which are using you, which are just using you as an instrument, which are just using you as an instrument. So this is the point where you have to reach, that it's not the ego, but an cosmic what you call an universal individual that will be forming. It is not the individual ego, but an universalized individual that will be coming into existence, and then only you can know that you are fit for the global cognition. And you see that the global cognition is also the origin of the concept of gods. Now that is a difficult, that is difficult to understand. You see that how is the overmind related with the gods? It is interesting because in the overmind, if you see, the one and many are identified with each other, absolutely identified with each other. That is the in supermind. I told you, in the supermind there is a programming where the one will become many, but still it is a program that is running. It is a software program that is running where the many will become, where the one will become many, the unmanifest will become the manifest. But that program still holds the two together in an absolute identification. In the overmind, they are not identified with each other. They are in harmony with each other. You see, that's the difference. In the supermind, one and many are identified with each other. In the overmind, they are in harmony with each other, though they are unique. One is unique in its oneness, and many is unique in its multiplied perspective. It is unique. So they are in harmony with each other, and very complex harmony, because the many is composed of many integers, and each integer is in harmony with other integers. You see, it is a very complex harmony, many multi-leveled harmony. You see, it is not one leveled harmony, it is a multi-leveled harmony, because the one is harmonized with the many, and the many is composed of many integers of varying potentialities, and all the many integers inside the many, they are also harmonized with each other. So you see what a complex harmony, what a complex super harmony is there in the overmind. So in the supermind, one and many are identified with each other. In the overmind, they are in harmony with each other. That is, they are not in quarreling with each other, they are in harmony with each other, and they, although they are unique. And that's the unity. You see, when the concept of gods came, then it was conceived that the unity in the overmind can be conceived as an immanent godhead, which is controlling the patent reality of the many. God is who? God is who is creating the manifestation. You see, the God, we conceived God as someone who is a creator. God is the someone who is a creator. That means who has created the many, and the many has come from the one. But the one, the unity of the one is still the basic immanence. It is the basic thing. Therefore, that is the main God. If we see, if we classify gods, then the immanent Godhead is the unity in the overmind, because that is controlling the patent reality of the many. You see, the concept of God came only when we were concerned with who is going to create the worlds, who is there behind the creation of the multiplicity. As long as the multiplicity was not created, there is no concept of God. There is nothing. There is no concept of anything. Only when the creation is starting, multiplicity is starting, the concept of creation has coming. And when the concept of creation is coming, because everything is starting from the overmind, it is very natural that the gods have to be traced to the overmind. Beyond the overmind, you cannot trace, you cannot come to the gods. It is beyond the gods. So at the overmind, the unity is an immanent Godhead which is controlling the patent reality of the many. Of course, I am saying this in a psychological perspective. Might be there is a different spiritual perspective which Vladimir can tell you about the way gods are perceived also in many different spiritual ways. But if you say psychologically, in a very pure psychological sense, then the concept of creation, or the concept of the creator, comes where the naturally where the multiplicity starts, and therefore the multiplicity starts from a place where unity is the overarching binding point, and therefore that unity is the immanent Godhead. And each integer of the many, you see, each integer of the many is composed of many things, and each integer of the many is a spiritual archetype. It's like a spiritual archetype. The archetype was a word used by Jung. I'm not using in the Jungian sense. Nalini Kantagupta used the word in a different sense. In the overmind integers, he used the word spiritual archetypes. Each spiritual archetype is presiding over a harmonic formation, which is creating, which is there in the world. In the manifestation, there are many harmonies. Huh? There are many harmonies that are formed. There are many harmonies that are formed, and each harmonic formation is presided by an archetype or an idea force, and that is that is a very special integer. And you can say that each harmonic formation is presided by a god. So in psychology, what I will say, inflated form of archetype, what you call, I project Jungian archetype to the overmind and call it spiritual archetype, and I say that that is a god. We can say that that is a god, So I am using the word God in that sense, but actually the God was what, when it was used in the Indian tradition, it was used in this sense because it was a integer which was presiding over something, some formation which would build something in the world which will have a harmony within that sphere. So the multiple gods of the manifestation are derivatives of the one immanent unitary Godhead. Therefore, we can say that the overmind releases a million Godheads. Overmind releases a million Godheads. That doesn't mean that there is no unity among them. Of course, these million Godheads are controlled by one immanent Godhead, which is the one supreme God and which is the unity principle of the overmind. And the unity principle is behind the many multiplicity, and the multiplicity, because it doesn't, the multiplicity has to create a universe, and the universe has to have some semblance of what you call logic. No? The universe cannot be an illogical universe. If was illogical, then we would not have been able to construct laws of physics, laws of chemistry, laws of biology, laws of genetics. And if laws were not created, then there would not be any, we could not have done sums, we could not have done arithmetic, we could not have done mathematics. And if we wouldn't have done mathematics, we wouldn't have been able to send a spaceship to Mars. So you see that everything has to operate according to a plan, according to a design, and therefore the gods are necessary, because each god is playing its role in putting up one design or the other design. So there are designs, no? So if at that time physics, chemistry as subjects were very known, they would have said there is a god of physics, there is a god of chemistry, there is a god of biology. Now at that time they must say there was a god of this thing and other things that were prevalent in the culture at that time. So they had gods of this and god of that, god of illnesses, god of cholera, god of malaria, and all that. But then you can have very well a god of physics and a god of biology and a god of mathematics, you will see in this sense. But this is very interesting that each god of the many are related to each other. You see, because everybody knows in the overmind that they're linked to the unity. Therefore, each one can accommodate the other, but they can also have conflicts within each other. So like that, physics can go in conflict with biology. No? The biological principles can be against principles of physics, but at the end they are controlled by one master idea, and that is the idea of the science, the scientific idea. So like that, there are gods. You see that we all read stories how the gods are friends among themselves and how the gods fight among themselves, and they do like that. That siblings in a family, siblings coming from the same parents, they can also fight with each other, and they can also be friends with each other. Like just like that, you have to consider just like that, view it with a sense of humor. The gods are like that because they have come from the unity principle, and they have to be collaborating and complementing and contradicting each other. Otherwise the manifestation will lose all its play, all its beauty, all its variety. So for that variety, you need to have everything, but at the end everything is the same. As the brothers and sisters, uh, they might quarrel among each other, friendly quarrels, huh? But still they can have something behind, and they can come back and they can harmonize within themselves. So it's just like that. You view it in this way. View the gods with a sense of humor. Don't take them in that very rigid sense that one god is against another god and they will never meet, never the twain shall meet. Not like that. They're just like that when you were siblings and you fought among themselves, and then at the end of the day, when your mother and father called you, they were both together enjoying a cake or a pudding or something. So you see, at the end, when you come, we see that the supermind is between, if the supermind is between the unmanifest and the manifest, the overmind is poised between the integrality of the supermind and the multiplicity of creation. Therefore, is a father of multiplicity. And because the multiplicity is ignorance, so you can say that the overmind is also the father of ignorance. But the overmind is reflecting knowledge of the supermind, and so it is also a mediator of knowledge and ignorance. So it is so many things together. That's why I think that so many colors were there together in the overmind, that diagram which Vladimir showed, that everything was there together, because indeed the overmind is both the father of the multiplicity, and at the same time it is also bringing in the integrality into whatever it is wanting to do. And you see the supermind is needed because it is a protection. Sri Aurobindo called it as a protective double, a screen of dissimilar similarity, or a corona or a delegate through which the supermind can indirectly influence the ignorance. because our ignorance cannot directly take the impact of the supreme light. It cannot directly take the impact of the supreme light. So last day I was showing you how the inconscience was formed. The inconscience was formed because the supermind was coming through the overmind in what you call in restricted ways. The overmind was only permitting restricted rays from the supermind, and when this light was being sent to the rock bottom of the what you call of what the multiplicity can go to the absolute end, and then when it reached the rock bottom, it was sent back because it could no more penetrate the inertia of the matter, and then it was sent back. It bounced back as a shadow, and then the shadow ate up the light, further light that was coming. You see, the restricted light that was thrown from the supermind, that was the overmind regulated it and threw an restricted light, and that light, when it reached the rock bottom of what you call the matter, which was so inert that it couldn't penetrate it further, and then it was sent back as a shadow, and that shadow ate up the light that was further coming, and that was how the inconscience was produced. So, and the inconscience was needed because the inconscience will carry the superconscious, and this superconscious will be released in evolution. So that was needed also. And the limitations of overmind, that the overmind cannot transform the inconscience because it has created the inconscience, so it cannot transform the inconscience. You need somebody who is superior to the overmind to transform the inconscience. Because the overmind has created the inconscience, it is incapable to transform the inconscience. The inconscience can be transformed only by the supramental light, and it cannot dynamize the transcendence, which means that it cannot make the transcendent transform the super inconscious. You see, the transformation or the light of transformation or the transformation force that is coming down from the superconscious, that has to be dynamic in the earth consciousness. The overmind cannot do that. So you need to surpass the overmind. So you need to surpass the gods. You need to surpass the gods. So some of you who are uncomfortable with the gods, some of you are atheists, or some of you are spiritual people without belief in gods, or spirituality without religion, or spirituality without God, which is a fashionable statement nowadays that is now said. So all of you must be rest assured that the overmind has its limitations, and one has to go above the plane of the gods to go to the absolute truth if you want to have the perfection that is needed. And this, we have last two slides. So this is an experience inspired by the overmind. You see, this is a very great cosmic vision in the Gita, which was given to Arjuna, and this was called the Vishwarup Darshan, where the word spirit was presented in a magnificent vision, no? And the word spirit is upholding creation, and at the same time, the spirit who is creating is also the time the destroyer. You see, the one who is the creator is also the destroyer. So that is the vision of the great world spirit. And then Sri Aurobindo describes that it is not a direct overmind experience, but it is a mighty cosmic vision with influences from the overmind. It is not a direct overmind experience, but a mighty cosmic vision with influences from the overmind. Now you say, then immediately you see it is there in the Gita, and Krishna is not capable of an overmind experience. No, not that. Sri Aurobindo is not saying that. You see, there are two things in this statement. One is that it is influenced by the overmind, and who is experiencing it? It's not Krishna, but it's Arjun who is experiencing it. The vision has been given to Arjun, and Arjun is a human being. Arjun is not the avatar. And for the human being to get fully into the cosmic consciousness, it is difficult. So he has to first go through the experience of the higher. You see, Sri Aurobindo said that, or for a human instrument, it is very difficult to have a sustained overmind experience unless you have gone to that spiritual mind range. The slide which I first showed you today, where you have climbed up to the higher mind, illumined mind, and intuition, and then only an individual is capable of a full cosmic overmental experience. And that is why, even though Arjun had this very big experience, it is not a full overmind experience. It's an experience, of course, a great experience, which is influenced by the overmind. And then Sri Aurobindo goes further and says that the overmind also is not only inspiring this cosmic vision in the Gita, visions like that, but it can also come down in poetry. It can also come down in poetry, and by poetry is not by subject, but those of you who are interested in poetry, I will just give you a glimpse of how the overhead ranges, means the ranges that come above the mind, how they can also influence your thinking, your vision, your what you call your way, your worldview, and directly it can be expressed to your creative spirit. You can express it through a creative spirit. And as for example, one of the greatest overmind influences that can be said is the mantra. Is a mantra either comes from the intuition, which is below the overmind, or from the overmind. You see, mantra which is there everywhere in the world, in all traditions, whether in the Veda, Upanishads, or in the traditions, all of the traditions of the world, even in the Christian tradition and other traditions, there is a power of power is the word of power and light, and that can come from the overmind, that can come from intuition. So Shivamindu has written a lot on the mantra. I think Vladimir is also very uh, uh, acquainted with this subject. It is a subject. He deals with the Vedas and Upanishads, so he will be able to explain to you these things better. And I will just giving you, for those of you who are interested in poetry, that influences of the overhead ranges. Overhead ranges means the ranges which are the supracognitive ranges, which Shivamindu showed that they can be operative in poetry. So that when he wrote, well, these are all Shivamindu's lines. So Shivamindu has also given examples of lines of poetry from other great poets, and K.D. Setna has elaborated on them. Poets like Wordsworth, poets like Shelley, they have also given written poems that convey something of the overhead consciousness. So that's the higher mind when he wrote. That's the influence of the higher mind when Shivamindu wrote in that sonnet that I have drunk the infinite like a giant swine. You see this concept, that I have drunk the infinite like a giant swine. You see, there is no exclusivism there. There's a higher mind which is beyond all exclusive ideas, which accommodates all ideas, contradictory and complementary. Who can do that? No? Only if you're drunk, you can accommodate your enemy, no? As your friend. Only if you're drunk, then only you can accommodate your enemy as your friend. And when you are, if you are drunk like a giant, then you can accommodate all the most things that are exactly opposite to all the views that you have cherished throughout your life. And that's the higher mind. It's that mind that we have to now go. I think that is something which you have now to tell to people, that this is the higher mind which is now ready. And if one we are being able to go to the higher mind at a stroke, the world will be able to rise above dogmatism and all that exclusive thinking which is plaguing the world. And the illumined mind where you don't need words to express. You can see that with the black fire and gold fire stove towards one bliss. So that is within the fire, within the, whether it is the fire of the supramental knowledge, or whether it is the fire that is the purifying fire, because it is taking up all the impurities inside itself, and all they are pointing towards the Ananda of Sachidananda is there. That is a vision that is coming in the, it is an illuminating vision that is coming, which is very difficult to translate it into words, only by figures, representative figures. So Shivamindu used that word, revelatory ideograph. Revelatory ideograph. He used that word to describe the illumined mind, the vision of the illumined mind. And then at last, this overmind. This is something which is coming from the overmind inspiration, that in the uncertain glow of human mind is waste of unharmonic thronging thoughts, because in our usual mind we are, there is no harmony in our thoughts, where carved the epic mountain line crowded with deep prophetic broads. So it is there you have to make the spaces where the great, whatever you call, the great fountains of knowledge will come down. It is there that you have to carve the caves, where you have to make the caves, where you have to construct the caves, where all which will hold all that is the uh, universal knowledge that will be just coming down, and will be remove all the things that are not in harmony. So that's a very great vision. It's just to show you, give you a glimpse of where you can take all these things, this global cognition, you can develop it to such an extent that it can also influence your literary output. It's not just only mysticism, it's not just only spirituality, it is also psychology, it's also literary activity, it's also poetry, and it's actually living out life. I think that I have exhausted my time limit, and somebody would still like to comment, add more of question. Of course, questions for me are difficult to answer. I'm not an expert to give answers to overmind, but more important would be if you could, somebody of you could throw some more light, could give some of your experiences, or you could improve on what has been already told.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Soumitra. There are several questions here, which are quite challenging, of course, but very interesting. If you don't mind, I will read them out. Um, there is one question which was put for me, which I will skip for now. But the question is to you: is our mind accessible for Prakriti or only for Purusha? Is the result of performing the great void the access to our mind? Is the great mind and emptiness or shunyata the same thing?
So the overmind, you have to have an access to the overmind. When you go to the spiritual mind range, you can only go to the spiritual mind range, the preparation that you can take only after you have integrated your being around the soul principle of the psychic being. And it is as when you go to the psychic being, you have integrated your principle around the psychic being, then only you can move from the lower prakriti to the higher prakriti. And then that means that together with Purusha and Prakriti, you are moving upwards. So it's not that one minus the other. For you cannot undertake that journey unless you have integrated yourself around the psychic being, around the soul principle. And it is only your integrated being, and where even the Prakriti has come around to serve your Chaitya Purush, that you can just go up and you can access the other levels where the other higher modes of the Purusha and the higher modes of the higher nature, they will come into play. So it's both the things, they are going together.
Mm.
And I don't think that the result of performing the great void gives access to the overmind. Then Sri Aurobindo would not have needed to make this great way to the spiritual mind range. The only reason that he cultivated the spiritual mind range and even had that, you see, even he is saying when he's talking about the experience that